Microsoft offers two different ways that you can build agents for Copilot with no-code and low-code experiences. They both use Copilot Studio. One is a Lite experience for everyday business users, and one is the full experience, which is an agent building platform that you can do all sorts of things with. In this video, I'm going to take you through live demos of each of those things so that you can understand the difference in the use cases and the capabilities between those and how you can use them in your real business scenarios. Let's start here in the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, and we're first going to have a look at the Lite experience of Copilot Studio. Now, I'm working here as a user who has a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. There is a way you can do this without that license. We'll come back to that one. But for now, I'm working inside the Microsoft 365 Copilot licensed experience. This is my main homepage, and I'm going to start over here and click on Create Agent. Now, the Lite experience of Copilot Studio is designed for everyday business users to create things that are, this is really a personal productivity type of scenario. You can use this to create agents that can help you with reaching into the data that you use at work in the Microsoft 365 platform primarily. We will come back to that, as well as just sort of refining your experience of the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. So actually, before we go any further, if you start here in the main chat and you wanted to say, help me write an email related to a product that we are working on at the moment, you'd have to write that prompt out every time. The idea here of creating an agent is that you are creating a set of instructions, or effectively like a meta prompt of some kind, tailored down to say, this is what I want you to do every time. These are the documents or emails or Teams sites or SharePoint sites that I want you to refer to. So even though we've clicked on Create Agent here and we talk about building an agent, in my mind, this is actually narrowing the focus of Microsoft 365 Copilot for a very specific type of chat that this user wants to have at work. Now, we'll go through all the capabilities and limitations, but let's just start with an example here of this thing. So I've got some documents sitting in my SharePoint site here. I've got a folder of documents called Contoso T. I've taken these from a Microsoft Learn site. I'll put the link in the description if you want to grab these ones and follow along. So we've got I cannot say that one. Contoso Chai Tea Market Trends. We've got Market Trends document. We've got something in here that's a product description. So let's say I am a sales or marketing person working with this product, and I need to reference these things constantly in the work that I do. So if I come in here and say, I'd like to create an agent to help me communicate with my customers about our range of Contoso tea products. All right, now watch what happens on the right-hand side of the screen as I put this together. So I've just given it a very broad natural language description of what I'm trying to achieve. And now it's come up on the side with a test pane and some suggested prompts in here. So it's giving me a suggested name, Contoso Tea Assistant. That's fine. You could give it a cute name if you like. Sometimes personalizing these things is a really good way to work. Asking Copilot to help you come up with names is also a really good hack. What's a good name that uses a pun for a tea agent? If you've come up with a good one, pop it in the comments below and share it. All right, let's refine what it should do. So the main tasks, it will help with product descriptions matched to customer needs. It should always use a warm and friendly tone, something like that. Now, the more you put in here, I'm doing a very quick job here, the more you put in here, the richer this can become. And you can actually write very, very detailed instructions to tailor this exactly to your scenario. So now it asks me, would I like to use any publicly accessible websites? Now, I'm working with Contoso Tea here, which is, of course, very fictional. But let's say this is a real organization I work for, and we have a website that has a stack of product information on it. At this point, I could go to that website, grab that URL, and put it in here, and then it would use that for knowledge. So at this stage, I'm going to say no. Now, if I want to go further with this and start to sort of explore what else I can do, what we're going to do is switch at the top here from the Describe to the Configure tab. So Describe is where I'm describing it in natural language, no code, Configure has now taken all of those things that I've done and put it into basically a form where I can configure more details. And because I want to go a little bit further than just these instructions, I can do that. Now, I did say there's a version of this if you don't have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. You can actually do this from the free version of the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, and you will only get as far as we've come here. So you can put in instructions, you can add a website, but everything I'm showing you from here on in, you need the paid license for Microsoft 365 Copilot as an individual user. Of course, all of this is controlled by your admin. If you don't see the Create Agent button, it's possible that your IT admin has disabled this or not allowed it yet. There are a lot of organizations still working through decisions about how they want their users to use this. So reach out to your local IT admin if you don't see that button there. If you're not the IT admin, you're not the one who can. Don't spend time trying to troubleshoot that. It's not you. All right, so now we're going to go and see what else we can do, because when you're working with an agent in this Lite experience of Copilot Studio with your Microsoft 365 Copilot license, that license allows you to connect to all of your Microsoft 365 data at work. That's what you're paying for, right? Is the ability to have that AI experience over the top of all of your emails, all of your documents, all of your Teams chats, all of those kinds of things as well. So you can choose when you're building your agent with this Lite experience, which ones of those you want to use. So let's take a look here. It has given the agent, it hasn't given it a name. I must have, in talking too much, let's call this one T Assistant. I've obviously skipped a step somewhere along the line there. We've now got, see, it changes in the preview on the right straight away. We've got the purpose, what is it going to do? And it can help us with answering all of these kinds of questions. Now, you can choose what you put in here. You can actually expand this out because that's actually quite a small box to work with. You can make it a little bit bigger, but it is still quite small. As you go through here, you'll see there's 8,000 characters. So if you want to write something very, very detailed, you can actually do that. You can come in here and do things like, these are the products we work with. This is the exact tone you should take. When I ask this kind of question, I want you to respond in this kind of way. This is the output that I want. Let me know if you'd like a deeper tutorial on that. I am still working on a lot of content on this, but you can go very deep with the instructions. For what I'm doing here, comparing the Lite version and the full version, this is actually sufficient to help you understand. So here's where we can go a little bit further. There is an option here to add knowledge. Now, we have got the ability to come in here and search for various things. If I click on this, you'll find that I've got, this is all, but what we can do is go in here and choose files. So I can choose individual files. I could come in here and just choose that product description file and just say this agent is grounded on that, and that's all it does. Or I can come in here and choose a SharePoint site or a SharePoint document library. We'll come back to that. I can also choose Teams chats. So I've actually spoken to organizations where they have like a long group chat that has a lot of knowledge in it. So if you've got that scenario where a few of you have, collaborated and answered questions in a long group chat over a long period of time, you can actually use that. Let's say there's a product development team here who's chatting about those things. You could put that in there. You've also got the ability to choose, if we go back to the all menu here and just take a look at everything, you've got the ability to say, all websites, which means I want this agent to have access to everything on the internet. That's different from if you just put in that one URL for your own website, it will just do that. That option will let it find information everywhere on the web, which I don't want to do here. Or everything on SharePoint, everything in your Teams chats and meetings, or everything in your emails. So you've got the choice here, and I hope you can see that what we're effectively doing here is narrowing down that experience. This version of the Lite experience of Copilot Studio agent building inside Microsoft 365 Copilot. As a business user, this is what I have access to, but I want to narrow down this experience. So for this one, what I'm going to do is actually come in here and choose a SharePoint site. Now, this is a communication site which actually has a whole lot of stuff in it. If I go back to here, you'll find this has got the whole website, but I've also got a bunch of documents in here, and I've actually got different libraries. That's not really what I wanted. If you've got a whole SharePoint site with everything on one topic that includes documents and you choose that SharePoint site, you will get all the content from the site plus all of the things in the document libraries. But actually, I just want this folder here, this Contoso T document library. Now, I've deliberately made that mistake on purpose because it's what a lot of people do. So if you make that mistake, because we are human and we do make mistakes, we remove that one. And what I want to do is just get to that document library. And the way we do that is to go into this browse experience. And now I've got, instead of that SharePoint thing where it's just going to the SharePoint site, now I can come in here and navigate through to that same thing and say, I just want that folder of documents. So those are my 3 Contoso T documents. So now this agent has got its instructions and it's going to refer to that product knowledge that's sitting just inside that folder. Now, if you're paying attention, you might have noticed I've got a Confluence thing here as well. This is not what happens out of the box. If you are using this, your admin has allowed you to use it, and you're coming in here and building an agent, you will only see what I've shown you so far. You won't see any third-party things. This is sitting here because my admin on this tenant, me, in a different demo, connected this one up as a specific connector that I allowed the users to use. So you will only have access to those other data sources if that is something your admin has allowed. And if they've done that, then you can choose that. But as a business user using this Lite experience, you only have the option to say, yes, I'd like to use something my admin has configured or not. And you won't be able to go any further than that. And it's just acting as additional knowledge. So essentially with this agent, I've got instructions, I've got knowledge. There's a couple of other little buttons in here as well. You can choose whether or not your agent should have code interpreter capabilities. Now, this sounds scary, but it's not. This essentially gives your agent the ability to do analysis. It creates code in the background. You don't have to understand code. This is not for you. This is for the agent. So if you've got a use case here, let's say I also wanted this to be helping me analyze the market trends and the sales figures, then I would toggle that on because that's something that I've got in there. If I don't have a need for that, just don't toggle it on. And also image generator allows you to get the agent to generate images. So I could say, please generate a warm and cozy image of steaming hot cup of tea or something like that. And it will do that if I've got that on, but it won't if I haven't. Let's create this and I'll give you a little bit of a demo. Big limitations here. So I've basically shown you now everything it can do. So to recap, if I've got the free, if I don't have a paid Microsoft 365 Copilot license, I could come in and say, here are my instructions and here is a website. That's it. That's all you can do. If you've got the full version of Microsoft 365 Copilot, the paid license, you can come in and you can add instructions. You can connect to any knowledge source inside your Microsoft 365 world or any knowledge source that your admin has also allowed you to do, and you can toggle on those capabilities. Now, I can choose to share this. So this is where one of the big limitations comes in. If I go into this change sharing settings, I can say this link is just for me, or it's for specific users in my email, in my organization, and I can choose who they are, or it's for anyone. But this doesn't allow anyone else to edit it. All that happens here is that if I copy this and send that link to other people, they will be able to open the agent and use it themselves, but they can't edit it. You can't share ownership. Those are things where you start to need the full version of Copilot Studio. This Lite experience is very much designed for an individual business user to create that very personalized, narrowed down experience for themselves or perhaps for their team. If I share this with someone else, this includes that folder for Contoso T sitting in SharePoint. Whoever is on the receiving end of that also needs to have access to that SharePoint folder. Otherwise, they'll get an agent with the instructions, but it won't give them access to those files if they don't already have access to those files. If I had it on my email and I shared it, it does not give someone access to my email. So it protects the level of access that you've got in there. So this is really designed for a very personal or small team kind of use, where it's knowledge primarily in that Microsoft 365 world. And it's really got to think of this as you are narrowing down that Copilot experience. It lives in this context only. and you can't have other people contribute to it, and you can't have any other kinds of actions. We're going to come back to actions. If I want the agent, for instance, to run every Monday morning and do something automatically, you need full Copilot Studio for that. If you want it to be able to reach out and update data or retrieve data from other systems rather than just generating knowledge. So we'll come back to all of those things. This is very limited on purpose. So we could come in here and say, please help me. Let's just actually go, tell me about the different contos. So tea products, I need a proposal for a customer who is very interested in, now this is where I need to actually see something that we've got here, versatile brewing options. Now, because I've got the instructions underneath that tell it its purpose and what it's doing and the tone and style that I want it to use, then it will kind of help me put those things together. And it's narrowed down already to this particular set of documents. So remember, if you're using the main Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, you would have to narrow down and say, I want this document. Like you might have thousands of different documents relating to tea if that's what your whole organization does. So it gives you that very kind of narrowed down experience. And then we can go from there. The way this works from here then is that once you're inside this chat, you can choose it from here, or you can @mention that agent and say, hey, tea assistant, help me out with this. So that's the Lite experience of Copilot Studio. It lives inside Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. You can't publish it anywhere else. It's internal only. It's really for me as an individual user or to share with my team, but I can't make someone else an owner. No one else can edit it. It's only giving people access to what they already have access to. And it's only able to be grounded in knowledge and those instructions. I can't get it to do anything, to take action. Let's now take a look at the full version of Copilot Studio, also just known as Copilot Studio. I think we're only ever going to call it full experience when we're doing this comparison, but that's what this video is about, so I'm going to use that. But this one is just Copilot Studio. The other one is the Lite experience of Copilot Studio. So starting point here is going to start off looking similar, but it's going to get different very quickly. So if I want to say we're going to describe an agent to help me, I can't even remember what I said the first time, help me with communication to customers about Contoso tea products. You'll see that it starts off in a very similar way. So we've got this describe configure. It'll go through a series of things where it will flesh out the instructions in the same way. So we'll just skip through this quite quickly. Does the same kind of experience. I'm going to say yes. Let's see if we get the name right this time. And I can put in all of those other bits and pieces about how I want it to communicate. What I'm going to do once it's got the name sorted in there is skip over this and jump straight into the configure experience. So we've got this same sort of describe and configure here, but you'll see that we've got some different pieces in here about knowledge, but this is not the full experience. What we need to do is click create, and this now provisions an agent that I can do a lot more with. So as a starting point now, with Copilot Studio in the full experience, this is now a complete agent building platform. This is a low-code agent building platform. The Lite experience, everyday business users doing something that they just want to do in the course of their work, narrowing down that Microsoft 365 Copilot experience. This one, I can build agents for internal use or external use, and I can do a lot more with it. So this is now like we are lifting right up. This is like, I think the Lite version is maybe 5% of the capability here. It's not just like a 50-50 thing. This is a huge thing. So as a starting point, we've got all of the same things we had before with the instructions, but the difference to start with here is add knowledge. So back in the Lite experience, all I could do was choose from what I've got in my Microsoft 365 Copilot World of Work plus anything, my admin enabled. This is now a different persona. This is someone who is a low-code maker, a super user, an IT person. This is not something that everyday business users would use. The licensing here is done differently. This is done at a tenant level based on how many messages are consumed. That's a whole other video I still owe you. I'll come back to that. But this is designed to be a platform for building agents across the business. So as a low-code maker now, I can come in here and say, I want to add knowledge to my agent, and I have got those same options to upload or connect to document libraries in SharePoint and public websites, but I can also connect to a bunch of other things in here. So I can choose to set up connections to knowledge if I've got a knowledge base in ServiceNow or Salesforce. I can connect to my Dataverse instance, which might sit underneath all of my Power Platform applications or Dynamics applications. You've also got a bunch of other things in here, and these are just the standard connectors. Your IT admin can still add more connectors in here if you want to connect to other systems as well. So I can choose to add knowledge in there. So I'm not going to kind of go through and do the whole configuration. I've got a bigger tutorial on how to do all of this and an update coming, depending on when you're watching this. So we've got the overview here. I can add knowledge, but this is where we start to get a bigger difference. So I can add knowledge from anything I like, but I can also add tools in here. So I can choose to say, I want my agent to actually be able to do something, to take action. So I can connect into all of these different things. I can create prompts that could summarize or classify information. I can create a workflow in here that will go step by step through, when you get to this part of the process, update this record, get this information, seek approval from this person. So I could have something here that's not just helping me with the communications on Contos OT, it could be helping me with a whole, for instance, new supplier or new customer onboarding process, step by step, going, check our accounting system, get approval for a credit limit. You can have it kind of doing a workflow in the background. We've got the ability to connect to all of those different things. And if I just go in here and let's go back a step, we've got a bunch of different connectors in here. And if you are a Power Platform person, which I know many of you are, but not all of you are, these things will look very familiar to you because these are the Power Platform connectors. So this allows you to say, I want to add a tool that will grab a document from a folder or add a document to a folder or do those kinds of things. We've also got the ability in here to have a multi-agent system. So I could create an agent that has child agents underneath it, or that connects to other agents that exist in Copilot Studio or other parts of the Microsoft platform, or coming in the future, other parts of other platforms where you've got agents built elsewhere. So I could have an agent here that's like a big account agent that also sort of has child agents under it. One might be a product expert, and one might be an onboarding of new clients expert, and one might be a finance analysis expert or something. So you can do all of those kinds of things in here. We've also got the ability to control the conversation with topics. So when we're building agents and we point something to generative AI and say, here's a whole lot of knowledge, you can answer from this knowledge, sometimes you might want to have a very specific kind of control over the conversation. So this could answer questions about our product range, but let's say that we wanted something here that was called discount, where we say when the user asks about customer discount, tell them they must get approval. This is a very basic one, but the idea here is that you can choose to configure something here that has a lot of different controls in it. So rather than just I'm pointing to knowledge, I ask questions, I get answers. Now we've also got it can answer questions, but if this one comes up, then we must only ever answer this a certain way. Now, remember I said this is an agent building platform. This is something you can use for internal or external. So you can use this to publish something out to your customers where they could ask questions about those tea products. And again, you might want specific control over if they ask about this, direct them a certain way rather than just having AI answer everything, because that's usually a little bit too risky. So you've got that in there as well. I'm just going to switch over to one that I've got a little bit more fleshed out here. This is an idea of an internal agent that's a account and contact manager. So this is one that helps a salesperson with, tools and tips for managing accounts. I've got it connected up to my Dataverse tables where all of my CRM is living. So we've got all of these options to create agents on this platform, and then different options for how we want to publish them. So if I'm publishing something here, I can choose to publish it to an internal channel, so I can use all of this extra flexibility, all of these tools, and publish it right back into that experience where we started from, so that the user can use this agent inside Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat without the skills or tools to build it. Or I can publish it externally to a customer-facing channel or some other kind of internal application that I use in the system. So to recap on all of this, the Copilot Studio Lite experience is designed for business users, narrowing down that Copilot experience, just putting in the instructions and connecting to the knowledge inside that agent or websites, and that's it. Whereas the full experience is a complete agent building platform where you can build internal or externally facing agents, publish to a range of channels, have it connect to any knowledge in your organization, add tools that can retrieve data, gather data from your organization, or do a bunch of other sophisticated workflow things in the background. Multi-agent systems, control the conversation with topics. This one is designed for a low-code maker persona. As I said, I've got a tutorial here if you would like to go deeper. Hit me with any questions in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.